Morgan Scalley? Look at us.
I know.
Who would have thought?
Not me.
2 Utes. Here we go.
It's awesome.
This is so cool for you because I vividly remember you as a player. And I want to touch on that first because I
Okay.
really think it's important for people to truly understand the heart you have for this place. 2-time academic All-American. Smart, right?
It's easy when you take, underwater fire prevention.
No, you didn't. You were one of the best students ever as a football player. Second team All-American as a player, Mountain West Conference Player of the Year. You achieved at the highest possible level that you could when you played here. And now here you are, you get to be the head coach at the place you poured your heart and soul into for so long. What is kind of the emotions and the feelings coming up with you today?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, it's surreal because it's been my family, really. It's not just me. It's been, my entire family went here to the University of Utah. My dad played here, and my grandfather, my mom's dad, was like the president of the Bleacher Quarterbacks, which was like the forerunner to the Crimson Club. So much history here. The Garf family, my mom's mom remarried Ken Garf, and I grew up going to football games here when Rice Eccles was Rice Stadium and the press box was on the other side, and I would wear my Little League jersey and get in free for games and go down into the tunnel and watch Eddie Johnson from just under the tunnel. And so there's a lot of emotion, and I am just blessed. Let's just put it that way. Blessed that people believed in me. Blessed that I had opportunities from Ron McBride recruiting me, Don Eck, the position coach that recruited me, Kyle, all these years promoting me, Urban believing in me, all these different people that have had influence on me. I really do believe in God and God's timing, and I'm just grateful for His guidance and His love and direction.
I have to bring this up because it kind of blows my mind. I remember, so I got to cover some of your games when you were a player, and when you got out of college, you ended up being an administrative assistant here. Like, you were the guy that was like, I'll do anything. Like, I will do anything. Like, there is a drive and a purpose within you. Tell me about that experience, and then believing you in that moment, like, I just want to be part of the program, to now getting to be the guy.
I knew early on how much I didn't know. I think as a player, you think, okay, I know football, but when you step into that coaching world, the blinders come off as to what actually goes on behind the scenes, right? And so knowing that, I promised myself that I would not say no to any role. And so that's been a blessing looking back at it, because I've worked in the weight room, I've been the training room liaison, I've been the NFL scout liaison, I've been the academic liaison, helped come up with our student mentor program. I've done class checks. I've, as a GA, broke down more film than I can think of. I've been in every single role you can think of: special teams coordinator, everything you can think of outside of coaching offense. And I wish I had that in my pedigree, but it's helped me now have more empathy and more understanding for people that are in those roles.
I really like that, because now as the head coach, you have to and you have been part of a beautiful program here. And I want to give Kyle Whittingham all the flowers, because he has built something really beautiful. It was going great under Coach McBride. Urban came in and took it to another level. And Kyle has sustained long-term consistent success and new heights. But you've been part of this, but now you're at the top. How have you surveyed the landscape around you and been like, okay, I see what's worked, I see what's good, but here's how I want to put my stamp on it?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I learned from Kyle when he took over from Urban, because that was a tall task, was I think the moment he started to really have success is when he decided he had to be him. There was a lot of, okay, I've got to continue to do what Urban did, and there were things that he took from Urban. The minute he really just said, I'm going to be me and my personality, and the players saw that and bought into it, that's where I have to be me. As much as and there are so many things from Kyle's tenure that I will never change. But I'm different than Kyle, and I have to be me with my personality, and there's things that will change, but having said that, there's a reason this place has been successful, and you better be really careful with the things that you change.
Mm-hmm. As you look at all along the way, people have believed in you.
Mm-hmm.
You were a young guy that made his way here. Like you said, you've done every job. You've poured in every possible thing. Why do you think they've believed in you? And
I think it's because I'm going to pour everything into it. You know, I've got a wife and kids that are amazing, that all they've known is dad as a coach for the most part, and that understand the sacrifice. And I have to be a great dad first, or I won't be a great coach. You know, I tell our players all the time, the greatest title you will ever hold is not All-American or NFL draft pick. The greatest title you will hold is father. And, you know, in order for me to be the best I can be, I have to be a great dad. I have to be a great husband, and I have to be a great disciple of Christ. And in turn, I will be a great coach. I love teaching. I love, you know, one of my favorite books is Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. If you haven't read it, it's an amazing read. But in, you know, one of those chapters is always be a student. Never think that you have all the answers. Always look for ways to improve. Be very aware of what your weaknesses are. You know, I think what fans can know about me is I'm always going to be on the hunt for a better way, for how can we improve, how can we be better, and our players know that about me.
You know, you talk a little bit about the culture that you want to build here. You've been the recruiting coordinator. You've had a big hand in bringing guys in here. What do you want to see continue from a recruiting standpoint, and what do you know, because you've lived this culture for so long, that will help you on that next path of bringing in the right players?
Well, I would say relationships always matter. I've recruited Houston my entire career. And so those are, you know, those are the phone calls and the text messages that were really special, were the high school coaches from Houston, and
they're excited for you,
that saw me as a pup, you know, when there was only Garmin and you were trying to find your ways throughout the streets of Houston on maps and stuff like that. So they've seen me grow up and now become the head coach. And you know, even in this day and age of portal and the recruiting window's been sped up, I think you get a lot of coaches fixated on, well, we got to be able to position recruit, and so they don't establish their area and relationships. And the high school coaches miss that. They want to know that guys are going to come to their schools and see their players. And so half the phone calls I get are, hey, my guy's not happy at such and such, and you know, I want to have him come play for you. And because they know me, they know that my logo's never changed. And there's a level of consistency, a continuity there. So relationships will always matter. And they want to know that you're a good person and that you're a man of your word. And so I think that's one of the biggest things in recruiting is you have to do a great job of hitting the schools. You can't shortcut, and make sure those coaches know who you are.
You just said something really powerful. My logo has never changed. You are one of the few people who has been in that U logo your whole life. And now here you are with a big responsibility. I think it's important for the fan base to really embrace and accept that in an era where the transfer portal and the lack of tradition is creeping in a negative way. That's a pretty positive thing.
Yeah, and I've had it used against me. Well, Morgan's only been at Utah. He hasn't experienced anything else. And I say, no, that's not right. You know, I've been all over the country. You know, I've sat next to Nick Saban as he asked me about Mike Leach and how we defended Mike Leach when Mike was coming from the Pac-12 to the SEC in Mississippi State. I've sat with Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning when they were at Georgia. We've had Brent Venables come to us. You know, I'm always on the hunt for better ways to do things and improve. And I don't think you have to go, you know, spend a year someplace else to figure out that what you're doing is good or bad. As long as you're a great student and you're always finding ways to learn, I don't think you have to leave. I know you don't have to leave. And now I can sit in a parent's home and I can sit in front of recruits and say, I'm not going anywhere, and they can believe it. You know,
That's
because you're right.
powerful.
Yeah.
There's power in that, right?
Yeah.
I read a great book. You recommended a book for me to read. I'm going to recommend one for you. I read a great book years ago by a man I really appreciate. Frosty Westring was the coach at Pacific Lutheran and won national championships, Division III level.
Okay.
And he wrote a book called Make the Big Time Where You Are.
Ooh, I love
Instead
that.
of always chasing the big time, which a lot of people in coaching and in sports in general, you're always chasing the big time. But if every place you are is your big time, you will find success and you'll be happy.
Amen.
So you have made the big time where you are at Utah. On that note, I wanted to ask you about this because, I'm out around the whole country. I'm at different programs every week. I'm locked into college football in a way that probably nobody else in this state is. And I keep hearing your name and people talking about you. And there was a moment I was getting scared of, like, someone's going to steal Morgan. Like, someone's going to come and give him a big offer. There were a lot of coaching jobs open in this last cycle. And I'm just curious, were you ever tempted to leave, or you knew something was so special here that you had to wait for your turn and wait for the moment?
I've never wanted to leave.
Okay.
I've never wanted to leave. I think the only reason to leave this place, because you can win national championships here. I'm 100% convinced you can win national championships here, and you can do it at a very good rate. I've never wanted to leave here, but I always promised myself I would leave here if I felt like I wasn't needed, wanted, or if I felt like I was being mistreated. I've never been mistreated here. Kyle has been nothing but great to me, a great mentor, a great teacher, and I'm so, it's mixed feelings, when you talk about that journey. But yeah, you get courted, and but my family means the world to me. This place means the world to me, and as long as I saw a path, I didn't need to be a head coach. I just wanted to provide value to people and know that I provided value. I think people leave jobs, people leave places, not necessarily because of the money, but because they feel like they're not valued. And I've always felt valued here.
That's beautiful. Okay, let's talk about the future, because this is a challenging area in college football. The calendar is an issue. The NIL and attracting the type of players you want. What challenges have you already hit the ground running with that you're attacking?
I would say young men understanding their value. Your value isn't necessarily attached to a dollar figure. You have to be very clear about what you want. What are the young men that we want coming into our program? And if it's those men that the dollar figure is always number one, is that what we want? Versus the guys that are about the team, and that's so difficult nowadays.
There's still a real balance with that. I have really looked at Texas Tech this year as a good example of this. Yes, they spent money in certain places. There is a special feeling in that locker room, and their best player is a walk-on, Jacob Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Like, that is still a culture that you have to build. Is team first culture still has to live in these locker rooms.
Culture is what you believe, it's how you behave, and it's the experience that's delivered by that behavior. And if that experience isn't great, people won't buy in. They'll leave. We have that type of culture here at the University of Utah. And the guys that you bring into your program, you want to make sure that they are culture guys. That they're not energy leaks or energy vampires, that these are guys that are going to add to, not subtract from. And we've got to do a really good job of continuing to evaluate. That's, in my opinion, what happens with you get these recruiting staffs, and then you put all the pressure and the responsibility on them. We as coaches have to continue to evaluate. And I've never looked at a star ranking in my life. What was a kid's star ranking? What was this? And no disrespect there. Does the film speak to me? And can I see this kid? Can I develop him? Is there a skill set there? One of our best players right now, Jackson Benny, walk-on, Olympus High School. And I'm sitting there because my daughter went to Olympus, and I'm watching her cheer, and I'm watching the games, and like, this kid is an athlete. scholarship offers, and now he's one of our best football players, and the guy will eventually be playing on Sundays. But you have to believe in what you see and in your ability to develop.
And trust your own experience of knowing what a good football player looks
Right.
like, and that intangible. Because you had those intangibles. I do feel like you have a special eye for those. Do you think that's fair?
I think it's just accumulated over time. I truly believe that you get good at what you sink your time into. Another good book, Deep Work, Cal Newport. Anyway, about just you end up having a passion for what you work on. I pored over film, as a young coach, poring over film, poring over recruiting film. You have your recruiting analysts, and they're going to watch film, but I wanted to watch 500 kids before I went out to Houston, just to train my eye. Okay. And you can train your eye enough that when you're going through film, it's like something pops.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's good film. And then trusting and believing and saying, okay, I'll be the first to offer. I don't care who's offered you. I'll be the first to pull the trigger, the first one to believe in you. We've been able to get a lot of young men because of that. One of the highest paid GMs in college football is Blanchard at Texas Tech.
Yes.
And Blanchard followed me as a recruiter, and he saw me take Justin Thomas from West Orange Stark High School on the Texas-Louisiana border, and he's like, how did a guy from Utah find out about a kid from West Orange? And so he started watching who I recruited, and he's like, this guy's got a good eye. So Blanchard was in high school recruiting, and he would send me guys. Hey, Scalley, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of this guy? And so, Travis Broughton was a corner from Oklahoma that he sent me. And now he's one of the highest paid GMs in all of college football at Texas Tech. And we had that relationship. So it's just funny, just trusting your eye, trusting, your hours of film and work. And funny story.
Covering Nick Saban forever, and I think he's the greatest that's ever done this. He was able to evaluate talent, and he had a whole system for it. So I believe your ability to evaluate talent is going to help you succeed here, and you've honed it over many 2 decades doing this and practicing how to be good at it. You said something earlier that I think is really important, so I'm going to ask you this question. Is Kyle had to learn, taking over from Urban Meyer, to be himself. You have to be yourself. What is that we will see?
In between the lines, it's all work. Outside the lines, I love having a good time. Kyle's, classic rock. I'm more Motown. I'm more, Billy Joel, Elton John. I have such a wide variety of music that I love, but I love to sing. I love to dance. I love just relationships.
Oh my gosh, are we going to have dancing in the locker room? Is this a thing now? I can't wait for these videos. We will see dancing right here.
I don't want to be the one that's out there looking like an idiot. So no, I'm sure we'll have dancing.
But what if it's good dancing?
I don't want to be the guy out there on social media that's have my kids just flat out embarrassed.
Yeah, but what if you're good? And then recruits like, I like that guy. He's with it,
I love to laugh. I think one of the funniest moments in my career was a Wednesday after practice. Usually Wednesday after practice, everyone bolts and is off for the night. And Sharif Shah, our corner coach, and I are in the defensive staff room. And I put on That's Not My Name by the Ting Tings. I have no idea if anyone knows this. And we turn this thing up full blast. And we are going crazy, just dancing. And Andy Ludwig opens the door from the other side. Guys, we're meeting. And we are
You're like mid.
I'm like,
oh, stop.
Sorry, Andy.
Understood.
Apologize.
So fun. So, okay, here's my take on this, what we can expect for you. Family.
Amen.
Faith. Football. And fun.
You got it.
And guess what? Football has become really stressful. I think we have to have some joy and have to have some fun, or else what are we doing?
Well, that's what I talked about with culture. If the experience isn't great, and you can't have fun at the cost of losing it. No. We will work, maybe harder than we've ever worked before. But they need to understand, my favorite memories of college football, my time as a student is my time with the players. and the things that we did, me pulling pranks on guys. And so relationships are some of the most important things coming out of college football that I ever experienced, and I still have those relationships today. I want that for our players, and creating those moments.
You've waited a long time. You've put in a lot of work. You've worked every single job you could possibly work at the University of Utah, and you've got a big one now. Congratulations. I can't wait to see how you make this your own.
You're awesome. Thanks so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Two Utes signing out.